Before the video begins, I just wanted to let you know that I'm about to spoil the crap out of Presentable Liberty, but I do strongly suggest you check out the game first. Imagine being a game developer excited to pitch a brand new idea. You walk into the office all excited and happy. You open the door to a room full of executives and say, "I want to make a game where the player will stand in a cold gray cell and read depressing letters from people they'll never see the faces of. And in the last 5 minutes of the game, where you think you'll be able to see who's been sending you these letters, you find a pool of their blood." Yeah, you would get immediately laughed at and promptly kicked out of the office. Well, it's a good thing indie games usually don't have to pitch their ideas to anyone, because Presentable Liberty has this very premise, and it has the best world building I've ever seen in a game. Like previously mentioned, you don't see a single person's face for like 99% of the game, which is spent in a cell. And that 1% of the game you aren't in a cell is to deliver a gut-punching finale. If you don't know what Presentable Liberty is about, it follows a person who is held captive to prevent them from getting a virus that causes whoever is infected to off themselves. To keep us busy in a cell, we are held captive and receive letters from various people. One of these people includes Salvador, who is an old friend of the protagonist who is looking for us, but approaching from a very far away place. Charlotte is a woman from a bakery that eventually becomes sort of our love interest. Dr. Money is holding us captive to prevent us from getting the self-ending virus. And Mr. Smiley is sending you letters to prevent you from succumbing to the virus's effects. In my last video, most people watched up to 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So if you're still here, comment something like, comment if you're enjoying the video, please like and subscribe, and it'll really help out the channel. Thanks again. Mr. Smiley, often not having enough money to pay for your games, resorts to selling his insides on the black market for money. What a fun, family-friendly experience. Something I love about the game is the sense of identity that the cards bring. Charlotte's being a bright pink, saturated card with a floral design. Salvador's being a clearly aged paper hinting at maybe a wiser, more experienced person behind the notes. He is attempting to make his way to the prison, freeing us from captivity. Dr. Money's letters, which are cold and gray, just like the rest of the bleak environment we're surrounded with. Lastly, a little spider friend that accompanies us throughout the game. I'll give him a name so you get attached to him. Spencer the Spider. Spencer will do. The only real interaction you have besides constantly opening letters is music Charlotte plays for you outside of your cell. It is then you begin to realize how she may not actually be that far from where you're being held captive. A few letters later, Salvador sends us a letter which reads, "Did you hear that wonderful music? I tried to head in its direction, but it was over too quickly." This is almost as far as the game goes in terms of being close to these characters until the end of the game, which I'll get back to later. The original script to this video was going to be about how depressing and hopeless this game is, but there's a much more powerful message that jumps out to me. It's going to start off very bleak, but as we continue, you'll start to understand my point a lot better. Near the end of the game comes the reveal that Mr. Smiley was being blackmailed into keeping the captives in prison happy. Otherwise, his daughters would be slain. As time passed, the unfortunate reality of the situation began to sink in, and he could not keep up the optimistic act any longer. He tells you he does not care, and he is not your friend, which is unlike anything he had previously said throughout the letters. But his last few words aren't used complaining or resenting the character or even being angry at Dr. Money. Rather, they're used to encourage you and keep your faith in a world that seems hopeless. He sells the last of his organs to be able to buy you a game to keep you happy. He tells us we are one of the last few remaining healthy people, and that no matter how dire the situation, you shouldn't give up, as he has, and says his final goodbye. Salvador, despite seemingly being hours away from the prison, treks for days just to free us from the prison. Eventually he makes it, but not before Dr. Money takes notice of Salvador's letters. Salvador attempts to destroy the electrical system that is powering your door to allow you to freedom. Charlotte is slowly succumbing to the self-ending disease, and unfortunately, you get that pink floral design letter covered in red splatter. But we hold on to hope. Salvador makes it to the electrical panel, and as you think he won't be able to free us, the lights in the cell flicker. The cell door finally releases us into whatever lies ahead, waiting for us. But not before Dr. Money telling us that Salvador was electrocuted in his attempt to free us. Dr. Money pleads with us to stay, but inevitably, we leave the room. Eventually, while walking through the halls, we come across a switch on the ground with up and down panels. Not knowing what to do with this, we do the only thing that we could and apply it to the wall with loose wiring, only to discover that our cell was really an elevator. The only thing preventing us from freedom all along being the missing panel we found roaming the halls. We leave the building after a seemingly infinite descent, and we are greeted by Charlotte's pastry shop. We enter the shop to find the floors and walls drenched in Charlotte's blood with a final letter. The end credits display her letter. A letter that more or less says that us surviving and persevering for as long as we did despite everything is what really matters. And nowhere else in the game is this better symbolized than through the spider that gleefully leaves its captivity, having a whole new world to roam. The last shot of the game, not shying away from the hopelessness within the game, but displaying a factor of hope and new things that is symbolized through the sunshine. As much as I wish there was an ending where Salvador lives and Charlotte lives and Mr. Smiley gets to embrace his daughters, I feel like that would be a very meaningless story. This tale is meant to convey the nature of human perseverance, and it is just so much more difficult to land that when you have the ending where you get everything you want. This game for me will stand the test of time. Even if it's forgotten, its messages and ideas will echo for many lifetimes. Thank you very much for watching. Much peace and love towards your grandmother, and have a great day.